Dan for New Sports, and this is the Full Force MMA podcast. We're proudly sponsored by Hez Boxing Equipment, and this evening I'm delighted to be joined by Bryan Lacey, who represents Oktagon, but it's not Oktagon by trade, was it? You're not presented by a trade. You're comedian first, Bryan.
That's right, mate. Yeah, comic first, and then squeezed my way into the world of MMA. But very happy to be here. Yes, cool.
Yeah. So how did it all come about then? The
What do you mean
Oktagon.
the Octagon stuff? So I'd been obviously doing commentary for a while, and I spotted Octagon. The first one I watched was Octagon 15, which was classed as they called it the fight of the century, and it had Carlos Vermola versus Attila Vey. Now I knew Carlos from the UK scene from training at London Shoot Fighters. Attila, I almost got to call one of his fights for a different promotion, so I'd researched him and I'd got really into him. And I watched it, and I couldn't believe the crowds, the size of it, the craziness of the whole event. There was more fighters that I knew on there, like Apollo Silva was on that. Who else was on that card? There was some crazy. Anyway, so I knew a couple of the fighters, and I tuned in, and it made no sense. I was like, how do I not know more about this promotion when they're selling out these arenas? And then that was it. I was hooked. I tuned in, and eventually I mustered up enough courage to send Pavel Neruda a little message and go, come on, mate, let's have some English commentary with this. And luckily enough, they said, yes, mate. So that was it. I took my shot and it landed.
Perfect. So that was Octagon 15. So you've seen the growth of it in Europe, basically, then pretty much near enough for the majority of it. So
Yeah.
what impact has it had in Europe? Because KSW is big, isn't it? But they're mainly Poland. So Octagon, we've seen it in several different countries now, haven't we?
So yeah, it's. I think the impact is yet to be felt. Truly, I think obviously the scale of the events are massive, but I think the foundations that they are laying will create what, if you want to talk of it in terms of impact, like tremors for a long time to come. Because what they've built in Slovakia and the Czech Republic, which is a phenomenal fan base, great shows, they've built stars over there. They figured out their way of doing things as well, which is telling the stories. And that's another thing that excited me, because that's what I love when I do commentary. I love the stories behind the fighters as much as I love the fights. And they've taken that to Germany, and it's lit like honestly, it's crazy. This weekend we're doing the Laxness Arena, and we will break the record for the biggest MMA event in Germany, 17,000 people. Previous record was the UFC 12.9 thousand. And it's all off the base of, telling stories, building fan bases, doing these other projects, these crazy things like you'll see Jake and Paul behind me there, that type of stuff. Octagon Challenge, that TV show. So by being different and staying true to themselves or ourselves, I think it's caught. I think it's caught the fans massively in Czech Republic, Slovakia. Now Germany, you can see it, and hopefully. I think it's a different market, the UK, but hopefully I think we will embed and build ourselves to be a really strong, and we want to be like a domestic promotion here. We want to build our stars, do our TV programs, do all this other stuff as well. So, I think it's the true force of it is yet to be felt, but I think, the foundations are very sturdy, mate.
Absolutely. Do you think like you just touched on there about the UK, is it the same for Ireland as well? Because we just had the first show in Manchester, and we've had the Challenge Series, and which was absolutely. I watched it. If anybody watched that and didn't feel invested when it comes to the finale, and in all the fighters, really, everybody had a different personality, a little part. So we're going to see stuff like that again.
Yeah, do you know, 100%. And Ireland is massive for us, and personally for me. My background, my family are all from Ireland. So my summers were spent in Kells Bay. Every summer I'd finish school, go out there for 6 weeks, work on the farms, work on the lobster potting boats, spend a huge amount of my childhood. Some of the best times in my life were in Ireland, and my favorite people are from Ireland. So for me, it's a passion, and it was definitely part of the, when I talked to Pavel and Andre and said, we're coming to England, I said, well, we got to do Ireland as well. And again, we've got plans, none released yet as far as what that will look like. But I think we've got to do Octagon Challenge England versus Ireland too, right? The Irish are going to want that back. And let's be honest, they were the stars in the actual series, all the banter, the crack as they call it over there, it was fully, it was 10-8 rounds every episode to Ireland.
Yeah, it was energetic. Like I said, all sorts of different characters. But we'll quickly touch on the final. So George and Dennis, it was a great final. It was a good watch, weren't it?
Do you know what? It was outstanding to see the response of the crowd. So they got the biggest pop, both of them, as they came out, which shows to me that people were watching the show, and like you said, they cared about it, that's the whole aim, to build these stars. In the show, I think I've called fights for Dennis and George before, and this is when they were going through the amateur ranks, and I saw a huge growth in Dennis Frimpong. Like his fights in the house, he had the people's main event against Hassan Galazi in there, which he pulled out a fantastic performance, backing up everything he said. And then he had fight of the night against Bo Gavin in a banger of a fight, like a real war between the two. To call that just an exhibition fight that doesn't go on their records, it doesn't feel like it's just. But for me, like I felt like he suddenly is becoming the full package. He doesn't just talk the talk; he walks the walk as well. But what George did on the finale night, and I think it did him a huge favor that there was a gap between the house and the fight, because in the house, Dennis was doing what he does, and he was getting under his skin. And I think George might be more emotional, but he had let all of that go by the time he had got to the actual fight, and it was business, and it was an outstanding performance, one of the best debuts you're ever going to see. He said it in the cage, won a belt, took it to the fourth round, got a submission against a legit opponent, and in front of the crowd, which were phenomenal for him. So yeah, he's something special. But believe me, like Dennis Frimpong was so emotional at the end of that fight. But this series would not have been what it was if it wasn't for Dennis Frimpong. So I've got so much respect for him. I'm a fan. He's had his jibes at me and everything as well. But that's what comes with being in close quarters with Dennis. But that's the game he plays, and that is who he is, and he's never going to change. And that's authentic. It's part of his persona. But he will be back 100%.
Yeah, with Dennis as well, he had a rivalry with everybody he fought in their own individual way. And it was quality. He built it himself, especially
Do you know
Colby
what?
Hassan at the
So
start.
there's
And that was a really big build fight within the house. Everyone was like,
yeah.
but obviously the coaches was like, no, we won't do it on your time, Dennis. We'll do
Yeah.
it on Hassan's time.
Yeah,
Hassan's time.
there was all this stuff going backwards and forwards. But the other great thing about Dennis and the Irish, so I got to share their prize for winning the Whitewater Raft Challenge, which was a meal in a really nice restaurant, and it was great because obviously it was us just sat together, but because there was no English around, they just went at each other, and it didn't show it on the episode. I was almost sad because it was like it wasn't just about the English. It was like anybody's game. If somebody wore something, I think Matty Elliott was wearing something, and then they were jibing him, and then it went to Herxeg, and then it went to McDonald. But yeah, it was great. It was great, and Dennis, without a doubt, was one of the key reasons it's been such a big success. But the star that is St. George Staines, he shone as bright as anything I've ever seen in Manchester.
Yeah. What do you think's next for George? I mean, just touching on just what you said before, all the emotion was gone just before the fight, and it was a great performance. Really, his obviously his reputation as an amateur. Do you think he can carry that on into the pros now after he's got off to a brilliant start?
I think, do you know what? I think he's a nightmare for anybody. His skill set is so good. His execution in the cage is great. There's definitely little areas of decision making that he's going to have to grow in when he's up against higher, more dangerous competition. As the divisions go, that's why there are rankings. That's as you get to the top when experience comes into play. But there's no limit for that man. There really is no limit for George Staines. I think he is a star now, and this sport is crazy because so much stuff can happen in and around the sport and outside the cage and training and all that. But if the wind is blowing in his direction at all, then he really can be one of the biggest stars in English MMA.
Absolutely. Moving on to the other big promotion, the poster that was that night was Stage to the Cage. Two fellas that have absolutely give their all for pretty much best part of a year to do this. didn't take a penny from it. Are we going to see something similar again? I mean, I know Paul's definitely not up for it, but would Jake be up for doing something again, or were you going to explore different avenues?
Do you know what? There's both with both of them. I think there's ways that we can involve them in Oktagon because they're such good guys, and what they did with that journey is, you know, and I said it in the intro, is they shone a light on the sport. They didn't just make it about, you know, violence or fighting. It was about what the sport gives you, what training gives you, what, you know, the highs and the lows in the cage can help you with outside the cage. So I think there's definitely ways we could work with both of them in the future. Jake is already messaging me about what could be next, so we'll see. As far as other projects, without a doubt, we're gonna do stuff like this. We'd love to do some more interesting stuff. Maybe, you know, stick with something similar as far as the celebrity type thing. Other avenues we could take. I'd love to. Again, I'm the father of a little lady, and I'd love to show and shine a light on females in the sport as well, and, you know, what it can give them. And nothing's set in stone yet. All this is good talks, and we've had some amazing chats with Channel 4, with the people back at Oktagon, just about what is possible and, you know, what we might end up doing next year. But there'll be something, mate. There'll be something. Stay tuned. And it's if it's anything like what we're talking about, it could be crazy.
It's excellent, and they're not just focusing on staying in one place, say London, like the UFC. They're going to move about just similar to Cage Warriors do. So we've got Newcastle and Birmingham announced. Are we going to see Manchester again? But would it be a smaller arena this time? So, for example, the BEC, the Bowlers Exhibition Centre,
I
that's
think we'll
usually
ever do bowlers because it's do you know what? It's an okay venue, but it's not the sort of venue that we would do. So I agree we need to do somewhere smaller. But, you know, I think we'd look for something similar to the arena style, but just figuring out what that could be or what that would look like. Again, when you look at our production, our rig is massive, and we don't change that for the venues. So just with logistics, it would need to be somewhere that could accommodate that. Definitely Manchester could be an option for going back to. I would love to do Liverpool. I would love to find a way to get the venue there open to doing MMA again. Ireland, of course. I'd love to go Scotland. I'd love to go Wales. And everything's open at the minute. So, and again, it is that thing. We're going to take Oktagon to the people. We want to bring it and make it accessible for everyone around. We don't just want to be a London show or a Manchester show. So, and every area has got its own characteristics. Like you go to the northeast, that's a good fighting area as well. Then you've got the, you know, the talent pool that is coming from the Scottish area. I mean, there's so much big talent coming out of Scotland right now, and I'm glad to see Cage Warriors going up there. I'm glad that there's you know, shows heading there. I would like to be one of them, and I'd like to do it at one of the arenas, the SSE. Same with Belfast. I'd love to go over there. I think that's a fantastic venue, and I love Northern Ireland. I love Ireland. So yeah, as far as where we're going to go to a set, Newcastle January 27th, April 20th, we're going to go to Birmingham. And then there are 2 to be announced, which I'm excited to finalise and get out there.
one country that we didn't touch on then was Wales. So we'll go straight on to Aaron Aber. It would Octagon try and get the rematch in Wales for Aber? Would that be an ultimate Rocky 2? Or I know Aaron's not scared of travelling, is it? He'll do whatever.
No, he's not. He's not scared, and you know, it's one of those things where it's. I think Aaron wants it so soon. He wants it January 27th. He that for me, and again, Aaron is someone I'm extremely close to in the sport and outside the sport. I know what he put into it. I know how gutted he was with the result and the way it stopped. But that was the performance of his life for 2 rounds, despite the cut. I have never seen him look physically as good. I've never seen his striking look as damaging. I've never seen him, you know, he set a pace which was unreal. And I talked to other gyms that have been training with him. So whether it's the MMA Academy or, you know, Northwest Fight Academy, and they were just telling me about his cardio, like the rounds he's having, the number of championship. He did 10 5-minute rounds. And you're like, that's insane. And at a pace, and he was Shark Tanking him, and he was tiring out the people that were coming in. So For me, I know he wants it soon, so it might not be soon enough to get it for Wales. But imagine if he gets that belt. Imagine if he gets that belt, and we could then maybe talk to Wrexham, or that would make sense. That would make sense. That story, that relationship he's got with the place that he's got his gym in, and Wales. But he will have to beat Garcia, who for me is a great opponent. And although everybody is, and even the judges had Aaron winning those first 2 rounds, there was still 3 more rounds to go, and he landed the shot that counted. That's the aim of the game. You need to make it so your opponent can't continue, or it's deemed they can't continue, and that one knee did that. So it's not an easy fight for AB that by any chance, but it would be, again, with a guy who's had a rough ride. What a fairy tale that would be to defend the belt in Wrexham.
Yeah, that would be great. Another one though that should have happened on the evening, which everyone was pretty disappointed about in the end, but Shamrock's actions at the thing of the day before, and it caused Pokorny to pull out. What do you make of it all, and where does the promotion stand on it all now? Because there's been stuff on social media the last few days, and Shem's not one for being filtered, is he?
No, mate, and what we would never stop him. It's not our game to do that. I knew that there would be emotions coming into this one. Everyone saw the social media stuff going on backwards and forwards, and it just boiled over. I was obviously hosting the weigh-ins, and that kick it made such a noise. It made such a noise. So it was emotional. It may be foolish. I think he'd recognise what it's done or what it's taken away. No one was as gutted as him that he wasn't making that walk on that Saturday, 4th of November, into the AO Arena. He had so many fans there, great amount of support. But save it for the cage, and it's a learning lesson. God knows what's going to happen as far as the fight, because Pokorny apparently doesn't want it now, which you can understand from his side as well. He was getting messages not just from Shem, but from anybody connected with Shem non-stop. When he was in the hotel, he barely couldn't go around the hotel because there was Shem's people everywhere. So it was psychologically a difficult week for him, as well as physically after that kick. But we'll see. I mean, I would never say that that's not going to happen. But right now, I would say we're probably at about 80% no, 20% yes.
So what we'll finish on, Brian, is we've all talked about everything and what's to come now. So who are the ones to watch for you? And I know that there's a good few, and there's a good show, like we just said, Germany coming up. And then there's another one in between Prague, because I'm coming out for Prague. I can't wait for that.
Nice. You're coming to Prague, mate. That's going to be insane. 20,000 people will be in Prague for the 30th of 29th of December. That's insane. Oktagon 51. There's Ostrava, which is Oktagon 50, which is Andre Novotny's hometown, and it's a very working class hometown, very industrial. It reminds me of Rotherham, Sheffield, places like that. But because of Andre's affiliation, and because it's a fighting town, there's some really good fighters that come out of there. So it's definitely one of the best atmospheres we get, and one of the best relationships we got with the crowd. Topping that card is Lozen Keita versus Nico Samsonidze. Now, Lozen Keita was undefeated, 10-0 or 11-0, and he was fighting Mate Sanakidze for a grudge match for the featherweight title, looking to become 2-weight world champion. And he broke his leg in that fight. He broke his leg with the first kick he threw. Again, he threw it, and on the commentary, I actually say the sound of it was insane. It felt really, and that broke his leg. He tried to continue, couldn't, and then he's been on the road to recovery. That happened this year. I think March or April, and already he's recovered. There's videos of this kid, training with his cast on, doing the pads, even sparring with the cast on, determined not throwing kicks, obviously, but people just positional sparring or whatever else. He is a hell of a talent. He's got a huge fan base, and he's taken on Nico Samsonidze, who is Georgian but based in Germany, and he also broke his leg probably 2 years ago. He's come back from that, so he's 12-2. His last loss was that. He's been in Oktagon since then, and I don't think I've ever seen two more complete fighters. they've got it everywhere. The stand up, the decision making in the cage, excellent grappling, wrestling. So as far as a world class title fight, that is one, and both of them to be coming back from injuries like that and showing people what's possible is my highlight for that card. Obviously, UK wise, I was so gutted we didn't get to see the full fight with Akon won this. I don't know why that guy is not a superstar. He's got this crazy backstory. He's got this big personality. He can fight. He trains with a Team Renegade, Leon Edwards' main training partner, Fabian Edwards' training partner. And he's the complete package. But we just need the UK to see him. And I think he will shine. Shem obviously is there. Amari Dietrich, we just signed from Team Renegade and Fourth Dimension as well. Glory kickboxer. He's fought across. Now moved into MMA. I think he's 4 or 5-1, but he is one of the grittiest stand-up fighters that I've seen, and his transition into MMA has been phenomenal. So for the UK, there's plenty of exciting fights, but for the rest of Europe, if you want to tune in, any card you're going to see young talent rising through. But we've got experienced people. You look at the main event with Hatif Moel and Lazar Todev, both experienced heavyweights at the top of their game. They're going to battle it out for the heavyweight title. So yeah, a few nuggets for you to enjoy there, mate. But what I would say is, if you enjoy good fights, if you enjoy good atmospheres, check out Oktagon.
And is every single show going to be on Channel 4 now, as well as DAZN in the UK?
Yes, that's it, mate. How can you imagine that? Free MMA at a time when we don't have to sit up till 3 a.m. or 6 a.m. to watch it. So, Channel 4 streaming. They are going to host the live event, so you'll be able to go basically onto your phone, tablet, your TV, soon onto your Xbox and PlayStation. I think that they're just upgrading their system for that. Click that red button, and then you just be able to stream Saturday. 3 events left for the end of the year. We've got this Saturday, November 18th, Laxness Arena, Cologne. Then we've got 9th of December, we're going to be in Ostrava. And then 29th of December, we see the year out. You'll be there, 20,000 people in Prague to watch Kinsel defend his title against Chepo, Vermola against Parek Kristofic, and the Tip Sport Game Changer as well. That's a €1 million tournament we've had all year long. The final of that is there, Velichkovic versus Andreas Michaelides. So, mate, it's ridiculous. I've got to go sleep in a bit, and now I'm all excited about these fights. What have you done to me?
Yeah, well, plenty for everyone to get the teeth into, Bryan. And do you know what? It's been an absolute pleasure for you to join me tonight, and I look forward to seeing you in Prague.
Listen, mate, that's a great sentence to say. Definitely come and say hello, and maybe we'll grab a beer or something, mate. All right?
Absolutely, mate. Yeah, thank you very much, Bryan.
All right, pleasure, brother. Cheers.